Last year, I found my brother unconscious on my bathroom floor with a needle still in his arm. His face was gray, his lips blue, and his body cold to the touch. I was sure he was dead. My hands shook as I called 911 and started chest compressions, praying he'd breathe again. He survived barely. That moment still plays in my mind like a nightmare that doesn't end. When you wake up, I thought it would be the turning point, the wake up call. But it wasn't. I've saved my brother so many times, I've lost count once. When we were kids and he nearly drowned in a river. Dozens of times as an adult. Bailing him out, finding him a place to sleep, sitting with him in rehab, waiting rooms, picking up pieces he shattered again and again. I'm 28 years old now, and my younger brother, Josh, is 25. I was always the reliable one in our family, the daughter who never made trouble, who got straight A's, got a job at 17, who paid her way through college. Josh, meanwhile, was troubled, misunderstood. That's how my parents described him. He was always acting out, stealing, lying, getting into fights. And somehow he was never at fault. It was the school's fault, the other kids, the stress, the modern world. My parents wrapped him in excuses until he believed nothing was ever truly his responsibility. And so he kept spiraling, and I kept catching him. After his first overdose at 22, I sat beside him in the ER while my mother cried into her hands. We all hoped it would be a wake up call. That was 3 years ago. Since then, he's been in and out of rehab 5 times. Each time my parents said, "This time, it's different." Each time it wasn't, I was always the one who showed up. I paid for therapy sessions when his insurance wouldn't cover them. I picked him up from police stations. I brought groceries to his apartment when he couldn't afford food. I even lent him money, thousands of dollars over the years, hoping that maybe this time he'd turn it around. But Josh never said thank you. He never apologized. He acted like it was owed to him. And my parents encouraged that. "You're the big sister," they'd say. "He needs you. He listens to you." It became a pattern. I didn't even realize I was trapped in. Until the weekend, he came to stay with me and stole from me. My parents told me Josh had been doing better and wanted to visit. I didn't want to say yes, but guilt got the better of me. I bought his favorite snacks, let him sleep in my bed while I took the couch. We talked. He even laughed a few times. It felt like a glimpse of the brother I once knew. But when he left, something felt off. I went into my room and found my desk drawer slightly open. I keep my emergency cash $3,000 in a locked drawer. I also keep my late grandmother's bracelet there, one of the few heirlooms passed to me after she died. The lock had been picked. The cash was gone. So was the bracelet. My heart dropped. I called Josh. He didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. I called my parents. They hadn't seen him since he left my place. I filed a police report. When he finally responded to my text, he didn't even deny it. He said he was desperate and couldn't think straight. I told him I was pressing charges. I couldn't keep pretending this was okay. He had broken into my home, stolen from me, and sold the last piece of my grandmother I had. He betrayed me after everything I had done for him. My parents came over that night. They begged me not to go through with it. My mom cried and said he was sick, not a criminal. My dad said jail won't help him. I asked them what would they had no answer. Just pleas for mercy. I held my ground for a week. I was proud of myself for finally drawing a boundary. But then Josh sent me a message from a different number. It was long and emotional. He said he hated himself, that he wanted to die, that I was the only person who ever cared about him, and now I hated him too. He said, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but if you're gone, I have nothing left." I dropped the charges, but I also told my family I needed space. I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for someone who didn't want to get better. My parents were furious. My mom called me cold-hearted. My dad said I was punishing them for Josh's mistakes. I stopped answering their calls and started therapy. I tried to rebuild some sense of peace in my life. I was doing okay until the emails started. 3 months later, Josh relapsed again. My parents found him passed out in a gas station bathroom. He survived, barely. They emailed me that same night. "He needs you." My mother wrote, "He's asking for you. You're the only one he listens to." I ignored it. A few days later, he won't go back to rehab unless you talk to him. Then, if he dies this time, it will be on your conscience. I sat on my couch and cried until I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning in guilt. But then I remembered everything he had done: the lies, the theft, the manipulation, and the silence when I needed support. I thought about how every time I forgave him, he broke me again. I realized I wasn't helping anymore. I was enabling. I wasn't a sister. I had become a crutch. So I left, I packed up everything. I transferred my job to another city. I didn't tell my parents. I blocked their numbers. I only gave my new address to a few trusted friends. I've been gone for 6 weeks now, and for the first time in years, I can breathe, I sleep better, I feel like myself again. I've even started seeing someone kind who doesn't raise his voice or make me feel guilty for having needs. I've taken up journaling again, and on weekends, I walk to the park with a book and a coffee and watch the sunlight fall through the trees. It's a life I didn't know I was allowed to have, but the emails keep coming. My mom creates new email addresses to bypass my blocks. She sends photos of Josh pale and thin, sitting in hospital beds. My dad writes lines like, "We don't even recognize you anymore. You were always the loving one." Josh sent one too. "I forgive you for giving up on me," he wrote. That one made me feel sick. I didn't reply to any of them, and yet the doubt lingers. The guilt creeps in during quiet moments. I still wonder if I'm a terrible person, if I abandoned my family when they needed me most, if I walked away because it got too hard, or because I finally chose myself. I keep replaying that image of Josh on the floor of my bathroom. I remember how my hand shook, how I screamed his name, how I saved his life. But I also remember what happened after: the betrayal, the theft, the silence from my parents when I cried to them about how broken I felt. There's a photo on my desk. It's from when we were kids. I'm 7, he's 4. We're sitting under the kitchen table, giggling, covered in marker lines from some chaotic art project. That was before things got complicated, before I became his keeper. I miss that version of him. I miss that version of us. I didn't just walk away from Josh. I walked away from a system that fed on me until I had nothing left to give. I stopped being the fixer, the emotional punching bag, the one who was always fine. I realized that if I stayed, I would drown and no one would save me. Last week, a friend asked me if I missed my family. I didn't know how to answer. I miss what I wish we were. I miss a mother who asks if I'm okay, a father who stands up for both of his children equally, a brother who sees me as more than a resource. But that version of family only exists in my imagination. I've grieved it the way you grieve someone who is still alive, and that grief is sharp, but it's cleaner than the chaos I left behind. A few days ago, I received a letter, an actual handwritten letter, from my father. It was the first time in years he had written to me, instead of pleading through emails or voicemails. The letter was surprisingly quiet. No guilt, no begging. Just a few lines about how he was sorry if he ever made me feel like I was less important than Josh, that he had never really known how much weight I carried, and he wished he had. He wrote, "I don't expect you to forgive us, but I hope one day you might come home just to say hello." I read that letter 10 times. I cried for a whole hour. Then I folded it back up and placed it in my journal. It didn't change everything, but it softened something in me. So I ask myself again and again, am I the one who gave up? Or was I the only one who finally told the truth? Because I'm not a therapist, I'm not a sponsor, I'm not his mother, I'm his sister. And I've already saved him too many times. I've lived a life in the shadow of his choices, my own needs always pushed aside to make room for his damage. I'm done apologizing for leaving the fire when no one else even noticed I was burning too. So I ask, am I the bad person for finally choosing peace over guilt? Am I the asshole for refusing to support my brother's recovery and walking away from my family?